Hello, everyone, and welcome to Exploring Cinema. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
Today, we're talking about RoboCop from
Yes.
1987.
Mm-hmm.
And should just do another quick intro of what we're doing here because we are going to start. We do have another channel called Speak Film and Enter where we review newer movies. And we decided to make a second channel for the older movie reviews, just not feel like we're tied to release dates, and we just kind of watch whatever we want, whenever we want.
Yep.
So we also, though, have a podcast version of Speak Film and Enter. We do not have that for Exploring Cinema at the moment. So starting now, the Exploring Cinema episodes will also be available on the Speak Film and Enter podcast, which we will always have a link for in the episode description. There's also a link right below this in our channel to the Speak Film and Enter channel. So wanted to make sure I mentioned that right off the bat here because this will be the first of those episodes that we're also sharing on Speak Film and Enter as well. If you just want to get the audio only version, listen in your car, something like that.
And to the Speak Film and Enter people, welcome to Exploring
Yes.
Cinema. If you haven't checked it out,
that was part of it as well. Is kind of we were doing some things, and some of the people that we know who listen to Speak Film and Enter were like, "Hey, why can't I listen to this as a podcast?" The initial reason was we didn't quite know what this was going to be.
Yep.
And we're a little cheap. We didn't quite want to we didn't want to pay for two podcasts.
No.
Especially because we still don't entirely know what this is going to be yet. We have a plan for it, but that will evolve as we progress. So at a glance, RoboCop, 1987, director Paul Verhoeven, who had been doing a ton of movies before this. This was kind of, let me see here. I exited my RoboCop screen for
Wow, you do that. You want me to tell the people what
it was a
about?
Tactical error. Perhaps if we had it automated by a robot or something,
this wouldn't have happened.
Don't you put
either that or one of you would be dead.
We're not using AI, Nate.
Just kind of earliest. I mean, he's a Dutch filmmaker, so he had done some foreign stuff. He had a really big. He did Total Recall, Basic Instinct, Showgirls,
Hollow Man.
Those were all after RoboCop. So
Starship
just kind of some more foreign stuff, and then a World War II movie called Soldier of Orange from 1977, which I still haven't seen yet. But
Interesting.
RoboCop, kind of if you're going back into his filmography, seems like one of his earlier English language ones. This had a $13.7 million budget and made $53.4 million at the box office, which isn't terrible, but not great for a movie that's still so popular, I think, and spawned like multiple sequels. And I want to say an animated series in the 90s or the 80s.
There's plenty of other stuff out there.
I had never seen the movie or any of the movies, but I remember having RoboCop toys.
Yep.
Should just show like how kind of big of a stretch that had, where like I'd never watched the movies or the show if it does exist. I think it exists. Maybe it's just in my head. But I had the toys, so I was very aware of what RoboCop was, although not really aware of exactly what kind of a movie this is, really, which we'll get into later on in the episode. Reception and accolades, 91% on Rotten Tomatoes, 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb, and a 3.9 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So all good scores there. It was nominated for 3 Oscars, and it won 1 for sound editing.
Only 1, huh?
I think, Dylan, that was you and I just many times while watching this remarked on the sound editing.
Yes.
I'm not to. That's just something that I can't pick up on. I see that somebody says it's good, and I'm like, cool. It must have been good. Like,
great.
I'll notice if it's really bad, I guess, is kind of my thing with sound editing. If I feel like it's just, I can't really hear what's going on, and then I'm like, oh, the sound's not good. But if it's, I can't differentiate between like good and great sound editing for the most part.
Yeah, I struggle too. It just, most of the sound effects and the stuff just seemed very loud. It was very loud movie. Every gun was bam, 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 bam.
But I think in that case, for loud movies, if you can still hear distinct sounds and hear what's happening, then that seems to be a sign of good sound editing.
Yep.
And then it was nominated for 8 Saturn Awards.
Okay.
Which that started in 1972. And it's just an award body for the best horror, sci-fi, and fantasy movies of every year.
Cool.
So it won 5 Saturn Awards for Best Science Fiction Film, Best Director, Best Writing, Best Makeup, and Best Special Effects. The Princess Bride won the Saturn Award for Best Fantasy Film that year.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And if you're curious, last year's winner was Nope.
Oh, that makes sense.
All right, nice.
I like that.
That makes sense. Good company. So there we go. Good company.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of what we got for the movie here at a glance. And then before we get into opening statements, just want to encourage people to like the video if you like it and subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing a lot more sort of a weekly dive into some older movie that the 3 of us find interesting. Going to try to be hitting a lot of classics, a lot of movies that rate very highly on like Sight and Sound lists or on Letterboxd, or just kind of some of the better reviewed movies of all time that we've never seen. And then maybe some more hidden gems mixed in there as well. So try to kind of mix it up as we go along. So subscribe and you'll be notified every time we review a new movie. So with that, opening statements. Dylan, I would like to hear from you first today.
All right, my opening statement on RoboCop is one of the most sneaky, smart movies I've ever seen. A scathing takedown of capitalism and police brutality dressed as a meathead 80s shoot-'em-up action flick.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
Oh, he's not done. He's not done.
No, and that's basically the best way I could put it. I just felt like
that
it's
is
very
the best
much...
way to put it.
Yeah, it's an activist in cops' clothing, kind of.
It is kind of incredible.
I like that. Well done.
How like present this movie feels, and how much it goes after things that have been like really at the forefront in the last few years. With like our generation and younger, generally not fans of sort of unregulated capitalism. I'll say to put it lightly, and just police brutality. Not fans of that either.
Yep.
So
turns out.
Turns out. So watching RoboCop was fascinating because kind of like you said, Dylan, where it's like disguised as this sort of stupid meathead action movie. It's not at all. In fact, I guess I'll just transition that right into my opening statement, which is simultaneously the most 80 movies I've ever seen and still relevant to the point where it could have come out yesterday.
Yeah, right. It's like of its time and ahead of its time.
Like the aesthetics are still just so 80s. You could not mistake it for any other decade.
No.
But the content of it could have come out anywhere between like the mid 60s and yesterday.
Maybe that's why they've tried to remake it so many times, or there's been so many iterations of it. They're just like, you know what? I think we were onto something.
Maybe, but none of them have like
captured.
I don't hear anybody ever talk about RoboCop 2 or 3 or the early 2010s remake. I mean, is it just something where, Verhoeven just has a touch for this sort of biting satire just sort of dropped in. To like an interesting action story where you can kind of enjoy this movie for either reason without necessarily loving either, I think. I mean, for me, some of the action felt a little dated, but I really appreciated just basically the practical effects of everything.
Yeah, me too.
But the social commentary and the satire and the humor for me were like top notch, essentially. I think I put in my Letterboxd review of this that it's like approaches Dr. Strangelove levels. Doesn't quite reach that level of brilliance for me, but it's it's not far off, and I was shocked to have that to say about RoboCop.
So I went kind of the same way with my opening statement. I kept it really short and brief because I think the last one I rambled. So I just said peak 80s in action, violence, tone, and satire.
Nice.
This is what else besides like Rambo? And that doesn't have any of the funniness or the satire to it.
Or if Rambo actually had like biting social commentary like underneath it, it's like it was fascinating, and kind of just from that one of those first opening scenes when the poor junior salesman who gets picked to volunteer just gets blown away, just gets mowed down right in the boardroom. Unbelievable.
Well, should we dive into defining moments then?
Yes, because that's absolutely one for me. Like it was so early in the movie, and we were watching it together, Nate, and I remember just turning to you and we both were like, okay, like this movie is definitely like trying to say something, and just like, wow. That was fantastic.
I want to provide a touch of context. We were all going to watch this together, and then you guys had gotten together a day that I couldn't. So you guys watched it. I watched it last night after you had been like, hey, you really got to get to this. Yeah. And so I turned it on, and that scene came on. I was like, holy shit. And I was like, I can imagine just like looking at you guys and being like, are you fucking kidding me? Like that. It was just like, my jaw was on the floor, and I anticipated you guys were just doing the same thing. So
I think Dylan just immediately rewound it. Although it took a hot minute because we were watching the Criterion DVD edition that Dylan has, and whatever the controls, like we could not find the rewind button. To save our lives. So I think like another solid minute and a half of the movie went along that we weren't paying attention to. Wound it back, watched it again, and that guy just gets lit up.
He gets shot like 60 times.
Yeah.
And there should be nothing left of him.
And for me, it's the fact that nothing happens to the guy who's in charge.
Yeah.
No. And the guy who's in charge is just disappointed that the product didn't do what it was supposed to do. Not that somebody's dead in his boardroom. Like, he's just like, damn it, Jones. Oh, like, and it's like,
there's a glitch.
And the other salesman who's trying to buy immediately just sees opportunity and dollar signs, and this is it. This is the slip up. I'm gonna go take advantage right now. It's like, and also that we get a hint of the practical effects to come with the way that is it Ed, I think it's like something
like
Ed 209.
Ed 209. The way it walks, the way it moves in, and then literally when they do the test thing, it like turns and it roars at that guy. Like it like lion roars at that guy, and then it's like, you have 20 seconds to complete. Like, just it was so in your face.
The funniest line in that entire scene is like after he's been shot like 40 times and the room is kind of starting to clear. There's just like one of the random old guys on the at the table. It's like, should somebody call a paramedic?
Yeah.
Like it's like he might still be alive.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
So that was my first defining moment. The other defining moment for me was the sequence of him dying and being reborn as RoboCop. Just the commitment to film it from his point of view and really just let the movie kind of go to that weird place for like 5 minutes and then back into just normal. I thought that was great. That really stuck with me, and just that was really well done. I can imagine seeing that in theaters. They were probably like, oh, hell yeah. Like,
yeah, I mean, that execution of the cop is brutal.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, I haven't seen much like that ever. In a movie where like just kind of the glee and the torture, and then just Red Foreman just ending it all.
Yeah, Red Foreman being so evil. That was the third thing for me defining moments, is just Red Foreman is just the ickiest, nastiest bad guy in this movie. Just unapologetic. He never calls anybody
a dumbass, which I was very disappointed.
We were waiting for that.
Actually, I'm kind of pleased by that, because it keeps Red as a pure character.
Sure.
Like, it's not like his alter ego. He settled down in Wisconsin and like, he got away.
He retired after or Wisconsin is his, what's the witness protection. They weren't the foremans before that.
Yeah.
So that whole transition goes, you think you're getting, okay, him and this cop are going to storm in and maybe save the day, maybe action sequence. Then you just get like, oh, I guess the main character's dead. And then from his point of view, reborn as a robot, the way they felt, you're always looking for little clues. Like all those little blurbs were like fascinating. And also Nate pointed out too, I guess in the 80s, your boss, if you were the boss, you could just kiss the female scientist anytime you want, just in celebration, right on the mouth.
Yeah, she had no qualms.
She was not asking for that at all.
No. But that was just really well done. Really well done.
Yeah, so something to add to that for me, just the entire hostage situation with, it's never made it's never purely spelled out, but Dylan and I, Adam, I'm curious what you think about this. Dylan and I were pretty convinced that guy like was the mayor.
Yeah.
And lost the election and then just went nuts.
Well, that's what he says. Like, I want, no matter what, if I don't care about the results of the election. If I won or lost, I want my old job back. And it's like,
and he wants a recount. Like, it's just
literally not how that works, but okay. Like,
Yeah, that was interesting because it really, you have to pay attention to truly get the context of what that situation is.
Like how funny that scene actually is.
Oh my God.
No one directly says it.
I mean, it was basically just like what 35 years before Trump.
Yeah. And I want a new car, and I want it to be the biggest, best car, and I want
Yeah. How about the SUX 6000?
Yeah. Trump's version would be like more. I want a Big Mac and a recount instead of I want coffee and a recount.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great scene.
And then I have Ed 209 threatening to kill RoboCop for parking illegally.
Yeah.
Which just immediately,
like, can you imagine? Just
one of those,
you're in a hurry, you double park, which is something I don't think I've ever actually seen anybody do, except they mention it in like 90s TV shows a lot. Or you're just parked illegally somewhere because you got to run inside and run back out, and you say, screw it, like it's 2 minutes, and a thing that size points a gun at you and says you have 20 seconds to comply. Like, what?
You drop your keys and you're fumbling and just get shot in the back. Like, it's over.
Yeah, that thing barely worked anyway. And then the last defining moment I have is I told you guys in one of our Speak Film and Enter roundups recently when I watched an 80s movie called Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Yeah.
That movie had the funniest commercial I had ever seen in my entire life, like in a movie or in real life. It was just perfection.
Yeah.
This one really comes close, and they actually go together very well, because the one in Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown is a laundry detergent commercial about like when your son is a murderer and he comes home like soaked in blood,
and you got to clean
the blood out. And then we get a nuclear war board game that's fun for the whole family.
Yeah.
Would you guys play this with your family? That's not my question for the group, by the way, but that was also a defining moment for me. I think we watched that twice as well.
Oh yeah, we had to run that back.
I was laughing so hard.
The timing of that. And also, and that kind of leads into, I didn't want to forget too, the other defining moments were just anytime like the news anchors and the news show, and really anytime it would show what television that society is consuming, I just thought was fascinating and always funny. So many great, like, they say something terrible and they just smile at the camera, like,
and the cuts sometimes too, like one story, and then they're like, and the Patriots won, or
like back to you, like,
No, I thought those were all fascinating.
Adam, did you have any other big moments that we did not mention?
Those are the big ones for me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, since you went last with the defining moments, if you would like, you can go first with the question for the group. Although I know.
Perfect.
Do you not want to go first?
No. Absolutely perfect. Okay. So I kind of have two, but my first one was, what was your favorite news segment? And I think was when they announced that the fires have killed a bunch of people in like Santa Clara or Santa wherever, and 2 U.S. presidents, former U.S. presidents were included in that, and then they just move on.
I know, they show like a body being carried away. Like,
it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's the first one that comes to mind for me for sure.
So that, and then I think that if you've ever watched Rick and Morty, I feel like Dan Harmon and Justin Roiland must have watched this movie 1,000 times. Like, how many times do you think they've watched this movie? Because the Nukem commercial and the SUX 6000 commercial perfectly remind me of that, and also the end of the show Community, because that's also based around a board game. And
yeah, the SUX 6000 commercial with the T-Rex and then his eyes bulge out.
Oh my god.
Just insane.
Just caught me. But yeah, the news segments was really the real question. There's so many good ones. So
yeah, I just felt like the interplay between the anchors, just the authentic apathy to all these horrible stories they're reading, and just how it's entertainment and let's just move on and here's a commercial. And yeah, I thought all of that was just so well done.
How much do you think that type of attitude would anger Aaron Sorkin?
Yes.
Oh my god.
I think he'd just lose his mind. I think that was probably the inspiration for the newsroom right there. He just watched RoboCop and was like, I know this is satire, but we can't have people doing this.
We can't have it. It cannot exist.
So I also have two questions. My first is, how many RoboCops would it actually take to eliminate crime in 40 days?
Oh, yeah. That's what he promises.
Just the audacity of that claim from that sales guy, VP bro.
Yeah, I know.
Saying our estimates, or whatever he says, like, we estimate all crime will be eliminated in 40 days because of this one robot.
Turns out genocides only take 40 days to complete.
Yes, I was going to say, the levels of like authoritarianism required to do that would just be...
You're either a cop killer or you're an illegal parker, and both are a death sentence. So, like,
yeah, anything that falls between, you're out.
Yeah, I think 40 days. God, yeah, I'd think probably about, a few hundred, maybe like.
I was gonna say maybe like even 1,000 of these guys.
1,000 walking around.
Big city.
Big city, big city.
And then my second question is, which is your favorite 80s depiction of the future? Is it RoboCop, Blade Runner, Back to the Future 2, or other that I did not mention?
Ooh, that's very good.
Because this sort of subgenre has become one of my favorite things to pay attention to, just because the vision of the future from the 80s is just sort of a special little subset of the way that we thought the world was going to turn out.
Yeah.
And it's just always looks so strange. And they never really, because they just kind of take the 80s aesthetic and like put it on steroids and just explode it like 30, 40, 50 years forward. There's no like real reimagining of anything. It's just like this, but more.
Yeah.
Like, what if the doors were automatic? Like, ooh. Like,
because I mean, both RoboCop and Back to the Future 2 had like guys on little TVs in houses and stores talking to you.
And like the kind of rampant mass like capitalism, everything is kind of branded. If Blade Runner, it's not like there's a bunch of brands that paid money to get spots in the movie with Blade Runner. It's so far in the future and it's so dark and rainy that it seems like it's a little more authentic that way.
Well,
like
it was only a couple of years ago at this point. I think it was 2019.
Oh, you said Blade Runner 2049?
Just for the original Blade Runner, because that came out in the 80s.
That's what I was saying, is the original Blade Runner's vision of the future was just like it felt like it had its dignity still, because it wasn't just plastered with products the way that the other ones are.
Yeah,
but
that has a little more vision to it.
It's so dark and rainy that I wouldn't want to ever hang out in that. It's so terrible. The only one that comes to mind, I guess I'd have to give out of those three, or those ones you listed, probably RoboCop, just because the griminess mixed with the kind of commentary, and it felt at least more grounded. I like the Back to the Future was like way out there. But also I'd say, in kind of a parody way, Brazil. I would throw Brazil out there.
Yeah.
That vision is very Orwellian and
the air ducts.
Yeah. And still kind of like, like companies and, corruption, but not so much where it's like, here's a Coca-Cola this and a Samsung this.
I think straight up the Terminator.
Oh God, yeah, I bet. That's what you want to do.
Absolutely, just apocalypse.
Robots stepping on human skulls.
Just doing that.
Is that what happens? Is that what the Terminator's about? Is robots just destroying human skulls?
It's basically like if Google became a military entity and then murdered all humans.
Okay.
The ensuing war. That's what Terminator's about.
I think that's one of the opening shots of the original, is the robot foot crushing the human.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
As it laser beams fleeing people. Like
I'll have to check that out at some point, mostly because I want to see the second one.
That's fair. All right, Dylan, what are your questions?
Well, my two are pretty simple. One was, what was your star rating? We don't always give the star ratings on Exploring Cinema because we just kind of want to talk about the movie in general. But for this one, I am curious what you gave it.
I gave this 4 stars.
Nice.
So if you haven't watched or listened to Speak Film and Enter, our star rating system over there, we kind of have 5 stars as a masterpiece, 4 stars is it's great, 3 stars is good, 2 stars is just kind of meh.
Okay, I believe.
And then 1 star is terrible.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a really great movie. I was shocked at how much I liked this.
Yeah. I have this at a 3.5 only for the fact that like the gratuitous violence is it's a little much.
It's a lot.
It's definitely shocking. Like to the point I was like, this is a whole different level of like even like we were. It's a whole different level of
when
stuff.
The one villain just happens to drive his truck into the vat of toxic waste and then gets run over and explodes all over the windshield.
His head pops off and he literally explodes into just liquid.
It's basically like the end of Tremors when that last one flies off the cliff
and it hits the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing pull. Amazing pull.
Very similar.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the Tremors were, is just like that guys, but like
former people from the city of Detroit.
Okay, well, we're all in agreement. I have it as a
specifically
strong 4.
from Detroit. Sorry, Dylan. Go.
No, in agreement. I have it as a strong 4.
Okay.
And then my last question was, because the theme seems so modern, there was a remake in 2014 of RoboCop that did not get great reviews. I didn't hear anything about it. I imagine it came and went with no fanfare. If it was actually to be remade, like big budget, like a studio was like, this is the thing, who do you want directing the 2024-2025 RoboCop remake? Who you trust, or what type of vision do you want? You want like Denis? You want like
Denis not
Nolan?
funny enough.
Yeah, or you need someone who can pull off satire, right?
Yeah, for sure. But like Taika's too silly. Like then, I don't know, like the Jojo Rabbit vibe doesn't really fit for this for me either. It's got to be the guy who made. It's got to be the guy that did Death of Stalin.
I'm thinking like Edgar Wright.
You want that?
Edgar Wright would maybe be good,
or like Guy Ritchie,
Armando Iannucci. Although he hasn't really done like action.
I feel like he'd be lacking in the action department, but he'd pull off the comedy.
Yeah. Just give it to Greta Gerwig.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Gerwig and Baumbach can do no wrong. No, give it to Kaufman, and it'll just be a philosophical musing on AI and
robots, like asking if he's like alive, like the nature of existence.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you could just Wes Anderson it up.
That would be fascinating.
Man, that's just a fascinating question.
Yeah, I think
the genres, the people we have now, you have to be able to pull off the comedy with the legit action chops, and that can be hard. I mean, maybe even like Jordan Peele, just because he's proven he can do like Nope and stuff. He could. Yeah, he doesn't really do shoot 'em up stuff, but he does sci-fi and big, high concept stuff. So that was one thought I had.
Yeah. I'm still gonna say either Edgar Wright or Guy Ritchie. I think Guy Ritchie could really pull that off because it's gonna be funny and
what
cheeky.
About? I got one. What about Rian Johnson?
That was what I was just thinking of.
That's not a bad idea.
I could see that.
He did the Star Wars one. He gets big effects, action sequences, but also Knives Out 2. He could definitely write comedy.
You don't want Yorgos to do RoboCop remake?
Huh?
You don't want Yorgos to do the RoboCop remake?
Oh my God.
We'd probably get like 2 shots of the RoboCop character, but just murdering killing buildings. Just you know what? That guy's bad. Just decimate that building. It's gone.
Yeah.
And just have no other response.
Oh man, that would be so strange.
His family would show up, but that'd be weird.
And maybe Tom Cruise, but I just think he takes himself too seriously. I don't know if he'd be able to pull off the satire. He would be unironically like, we should do this.
He could play the RoboCop.
Oh, he totally could.
Yeah.
All right, we can move on. I just thought
that's a good one.
Who did Edge of Tomorrow?
Who
did Edge of Tomorrow?
Let me look.
I don't know. I think Cruise just brought in.
I think it has like a real director.
Doug Liman, who also did Swingers. It's the only other thing that shows up.
All right. Never mind.
Nothing that I'm aware of, really.
Forget I mentioned it. Moving on.
Okay.
Observations and musings. I mean, yeah, we already talked about just the audacity of the guy who claimed RoboCop would eliminate all crime in 40 days. And just like, how did that guy get to keep his job at all? One, though, maybe my favorite moment in the entire movie, honestly, is just the look on that guy's face when RoboCop kills his boss.
I was just gonna say that
was just pure movie making gold right there.
To include that.
I feel like if we were recasting for this, just because I think he's got a funny smile and he could nail the reaction, like Richard Ayoade for that character.
Just to just
react when like some big mean boss gets blown out of a skyscraper. Which we talked about this too. Like, how many guys get thrown through glass?
That too
in this movie.
It happens a lot. It happens a lot.
Walls, glass, windows, doors, nothing is safe. It all gets smashed. Someone gets thrown through it, or a car drives through it, or it's
now one building just conveniently had enough like still standing windows that hadn't been shot down yet that fit the way that the fight and conversation was going.
Yep. Just throw them through a window. Throw them through.
Yeah. And then lastly, the 6000 sucks is just a hilarious name for a shitty car.
Yeah. So good. Oversized.
That's just, I don't know how long it took them to brainstorm that one, but very well done, everyone involved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that was my only musing that I even had down was the salesman getting so excited to see his evil boss get shot out of a window. Just the giddiness in that moment. And it's like right before the end of the movie. It's like the movie's over 20 seconds later. Like
yeah. Just add that in. Like my only musing was how the corporate backstabbing, because they kill that VP. And then it directly goes into a shot of Red Foreman doing basically the same thing in like the gang world. Like it absolutely mirrors that, and how it's the same thing, but it's seen as slightly better. And it's like you said in your opening statement, Dylan, like the takedown of capitalism and hyper capitalism and all that kind of stuff. And it's just gang warfare, just in suits.
Exactly.
And, like, kind of legal.
Yeah. Like we said so it is. Like
right.
Yeah, the parallels between Dick Jones and Clarence Boddicker.
Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of his name, so I had to go back to Red Foreman.
Yeah, no, Kurtwood Smith is the actor, but yeah, Clarence Boddicker is the character, and yeah, the way they are really two peas in a pod. One just wears a suit, and the other is on the street with a gun, and that's not too different. And yeah, they make a good evil duo. Also weird speech by Dick Jones talking about how I used to make fun of my boss. Used to make jokes, call him Iron Butt.
I knew there was a line I was forgetting that we thought was just super funny.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
There's some real dumb ones, but great. Just so perfect.
That was fantastic.
All right, on to some tidbits.
Tidbits.
The tidbits.
Oh man, I get most of the tidbits from the IMDb pages, trivias and stuff. This trivia page is like 600 long. It takes forever. So some of my favorites. Originally, Kurtwood Smith had auditioned for the role of Dick Jones, and he didn't get it, obviously. But the director, Paul Verhoeven, cast him as Boddicker because he wanted him to be a smart villain, somebody who didn't look like they could get outsmarted very easily. So they put glasses on him, and he said with glasses, he looked a lot like Heinrich Himmler. So I Googled a picture, and they're pretty similar. And Verhoeven is Dutch, so he grew up very close to the Holocaust, and I thought that was a nice, like, he's a terrifying dude, and he's a little bit smarter than you want him to be. The scene where we shoot the VP in the first boardroom meeting, they pull out a Desert Eagle, like a chromed out Desert Eagle, which is like the largest handgun you can own. It's a 50 caliber handgun. It's massive. It was too small for the RoboCop like hand, like it didn't look big enough. So they had to bring in like an automatic pistol, and they souped it up and added a bunch of other shit to it, which is just so on theme for this movie. Like, let's just make it the biggest stupid handgun you can have. Like,
the biggest pistol known to existence, not big enough.
Yeah, not big enough. Gotta get a bigger one. The suit for this movie, which there was a couple, because there's different, later on when he's all shot up, there's a different suit for that. But each suit was between $500,000 and $1 million.
Wow.
So, you said, Nate, at the beginning, this is produced for like $13.7 million. Like, I bet you a lot of that was the suit, and then the rest was like the graphics or whatever, the special effects.
They certainly didn't pay to have the city cleaned up before they filmed there.
Well, I mean, why would you do that? You're going to do it during the course of the movie.
Dirty it up. Looks even better.
The writer for this movie also wrote Starship Troopers, which is just another like kind of fun parody movie. But he wrote this movie as an inverse of Blade Runner. Blade Runner, where the robots are chasing like other robots, or the people are chasing robots, and this one is a robot is chasing people kind of deal. And then my last and favorite tidbit is that Peter Weller, the guy who plays RoboCop, stayed in character between takes.
And would Daniel Day-Lewis on it.
Hold on. And would only respond to directions as if they were from the director, and would only respond to the name Robo. And the director, Paul Verhoeven, found it so funny he had to scrap that whole idea. He was like, "You can't do this, Peter." He was laughing too much. He had to scrap the idea because he would.
At first, he's like, "Stay in character so you can be robotic."
Yes.
And then he's like, "Oh wait, never mind. This is just so silly.
I'm dying." That's my favorite tidbit, because it was like, you know what, that was a great idea. It's not going to work.
Yeah, that's great.
God. I would have loved to have early footage of just those first few takes of just like, I think the take could be better.
I will power down. Just like sit in the chair and just wait.
Yeah, they take their like union mandated 15-minute break, and he just like
just like hunches over slightly.
He just stays standing and sleeps like what cows sleep standing up, don't they?
Horses sleep standing
Horses. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Large creatures.
I have one tidbit that I like quite a bit, but before that, I need to go back and readdress Dylan's question about who should direct the 2024 or 25 remake of RoboCop were it to be made. And the answer is Bong Joon-ho.
Yes, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
he could pull that off. That's a good one.
I really like that. All right, so your tidbit.
Yes, my tidbit, which is amazing, by the way. A comedy routine at the 1988 Oscars featured RoboCop rescuing Pee Wee Herman from Ed 209.
Rest in peace.
And I don't know if there's video of that on the internet somewhere.
I'm sure there is.
I bet that's pretty great.
Yeah. It looks like you can find it at on YouTube.
Okay.
Definitely. So I'm gonna watch that as soon as we're done recording this, and I'd recommend for other people to go check that out as well. So that was just my last contribution to the tidbits.
I like that. That's great.
Nice. Yeah, I do not have any tidbits, so we could move on to our McCabe Code of Excellence.
Yeah, Adam, if you'd like to share the images so people know how excellent this code is. So it's like winning the Masters, basically. If we deem that somebody involved with the movie did something so excellent as to deserve this coat, we will award it to them. We do not have to give it to anybody. If we didn't like the movie or didn't think it was good enough, then we're not going to give out the coat. And this is not a single one being given out. We're each choosing one to hand out. I guess I'll go first, and I sort of want to give it to Verhoeven, but I mostly just want to give it to whoever wrote that commercial about the nuclear war family board game.
Yeah.
That's who deserves the McCabe Code of Excellence.
Yeah, writers are Edward Neumeier and Michael Miner. Whichever one of you came up with that, well done. bravo.
Yeah. Welcome to the club.
Welcome to the McCabe Club.
Yeah, I think just straight up the writers, they get it.
Yeah, they get it. They can split it. You can split the coat. They're cutting the coat right down the middle.
It's a big coat. You can probably fit both of them in and wear it together.
Two people can fit in that thing. Yeah, with me, I almost didn't really give it to anyone because it's so unique, and I was like, oh, the director kinda, and the writers kinda, and the actors. But actually, when I really thought about it, I am giving the McCabe Code of Excellence
to Joan Allen,
the costume and makeup department.
Nancy Allen,
no. The costume and makeup department of this.
That was my other thought. I just like that and the effects. The look of it.
The look of RoboCop is so perfect. The way that just his proportions, the face thing when he gets his helmet, when his helmet's off and it's like the skin, which is like, stretched back. I mean, his look and the way he moves, and even the gun, like you said, they came in and made just a crazy big gun for him. I mean, I think that's part of why this has had so much staying power is, easy concept. You hear RoboCop and okay, you get it. But the way his look, I feel like, is just perfect 80s sci-fi, imaginative, and well done to them. So I'd give the coat to costume and makeup.
I did read something while I was going through that long list of trivia that the director and I believe like the lighting guys or somebody, maybe it was one of the writers, were at odds, and they like had a real big fight about whether when they show him in full makeup without the helmet, whether that should be like dark and like really hard to see and you can't see the details, or if it should be brightly lit so you could see like all of the detail. And obviously it's all brightly lit. And they at the premiere, they both got done and were like, that was the right choice. Like that was perfect. And like they had a huge, like, I will never work with you again on something, like type of fight. And then after it was like, that was absolutely perfect.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which came out this year, has the main villain in that basically kind of has the same thing going on.
Yeah.
He's got the stretchy skin thing going on, and they pulled that off in 1987.
Yeah.
Do you guys think Darth Vader would have been jealous of how good this guy's face looked when he took the helmet off?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because Darth was struggling there.
He was doing real bad. I mean, luckily for RoboCop, we only got to see his first like week on the job, or
first couple days.
I bet 40 years in, he might
have caught some scars or something. I mean, hell, when he takes it off, he's still only got the one bullet wound like in the top of his head. Like that's it. He's got nothing else. He's completely good. But
so wait, Adam, who did you give it to?
I was going to give it to the writers, if anybody, but I mean, I really enjoyed Kurtwood Smith as Boddicker, but I'm going to give it to the writers just because of, the satire, how funny this is, how poignant it is.
All right. Well, that gets us into closing statements, and that's pretty much what I got. This is, for me, just, new to this movie, a shockingly funny movie that is still, unfortunately, incredibly relevant today. And if you can handle the level of violence, I think that there's a lot to take out of this movie.
Agreed. My closing statement is this movie is proof that big budget shoot 'em up action movies can be sharp and smart as well. You can do both. It doesn't just need to be shootouts and over the top crazy action. It's possible. And this movie's only 90 minutes. It's not like it's some 3-hour thing where they had to throw in all this so that the audience actually learned something or anything. No, it's quick, it's crisp, but like the satire and what it's trying to say is right there, along with, heart pounding, shoot 'em up, classic, just 80s big budget action stuff. So this is proof. I just feel like, for future action franchises, you can pull it off.
It can be done.
It can be done.
My closing statement is, I believe the worst form of reincarnation is to come back as a cop.
Yeah.
All right.
That's pretty good.
I will also just add as well that practical effects, when done well, they hold up so much better than
they really do. You feel
CGI looks old like 6 months later at this point, and this still looks good. To your point, Dylan, about the costume and just the way everything. Yeah.
You can tell it's dated, but it still looks like it was done and it took its time, and they actually crafted it instead of being like, throw it together.
You can touch it. It looks like, which you can. So that makes such a big difference.
For sure. All right. Well, this was fun. This was good. I'm glad that we got this in here. Glad that you guys got to check it out for the first time. And 4 stars across the board from us. So there we go. All right. Whose turn is it to put a wrap on the show?
I've got it.
Nope. You've got a quote, Adam?
Yes. Unless Nathan, you had it.
Nope.
You got it. I had the one from the last episode. I'm just mixing myself up right now. So Adam, you got the quote, and I'm taking us out.
All right. Take it out. Take it away.
Can you fly, Bobby?